I thought I'd then move into introductions then. So just to say that my name is Faye Rushton. I am the Education and Training Development Manager for Mindfulness in Schools. And I have been delighted to, well, actually, it was this time last year that Liz approached and said, you know, shall we start putting something together for the curriculum for Wales mapping as well? And I felt really honoured actually to be involved in that process. I'm really grateful for all of Liz's expertise and wisdom in that sense. Just to give you some background information on Liz, if you don't know her already, but I'm guessing lots of you do. But Liz was a teacher, head teacher and education advisor, and head of children and young people's strategy in the Welsh Government. She retired to focus on young people's wellbeing and now teaches mindfulness to school children and teachers, and is a lead trainer for the Mindfulness in Schools project and co-leads the education strand of a cross-sector living strategy for mindfulness in partnership with the Welsh Government. So huge plaudits there for all of that work that you do, Liz. And I know that you continue to be the most amazing advocate for this work. So thank you very much in advance for all of that.
Thank you, Faye.
Say that again, sorry, Lisa.
It's going to have a little bit of a glow here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you, Eleanor.
Big retirement.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll go into the PowerPoint presentation. Just to say that though we're recording this, none of you will be included in that recording. So just so that if you have any concerns about that, not to worry about that at all. When I take us into kind of the shared screen, you know, you should not be visible on the recording. So just to let you know that. All right, let me go into the shared screen now then. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk through this, and Liz and I are going to sort of chat about various elements of the work that we've been doing. As mentioned before, we kind of came together a year ago and began working on this, and it was on the back of the work that had been done last year, where the curriculum had been, the MiSP Curricula had been mapped to PSHE programmes of study. And so we thought it'd be great to build on that so that we have another home nation sort of under our belt as well, in terms of looking at and exploring how it might work within sort of mainstream schooling. But also, you know, very importantly, we recognise that the curriculum for Wales is incredible. You know, it's been an amazing innovation. I personally have a little bit of envy about the fact that I'm sitting here in England, and I'd love it to be also here that we have an integral area for health and wellbeing within sort of what's offered as part of the curriculum. So I think it's really exciting that Wales have this, and that it's not an add-on to have health and wellbeing as part of education. So we've worked together on this over the last year. Want to also give credit to Annabelle Talbot, who did some of the foundational work on the mapping, and you'll see that some of her work is also included in this mapping that we've been doing. So let me move into telling you, if you don't know already, a little bit about Mindfulness in Schools projects. We are a charity that's been going since 2009. Our work has, initially it was very focused on students, but in recent years has become much more focused as well on teachers and helping teachers learn mindfulness for their own well-being, which we all probably recognise is really paramount at the moment in terms of supporting teachers in schools. And just looking at people just looking after their own well-being. There's lots of research out there that shows an interconnection and relationship between the well-being of educational staff and the well-being of children in school, and vice versa. So really key that we support teachers as well as students with offering mindfulness to support their well-being. So this is what we do. We bring mindfulness to young people and those who care for them for that reason. And just to share with you a little bit about our current stats, these are new figures, so I'm quite excited to share them with you. We've trained over 8,600 teachers. 1.1 million students have been reached through those teachers. And the curricula that we offer is Begin, which is an online 8-week programme, which is instructor-led, and an introduction to mindfulness. Breathe is a curriculum for transitions to support children and young people sort of age 9 to 14 as they go through sort of puberty and also coping with transition from one school to another and tests and exams. It's 4 sessions and it's very sort of it's a sort of mindfulness based wellbeing curriculum. DOTS is for 3 to 6 year olds. It's 30 sessions and sessions are about 15 to 20 minutes long. It's a huge amount of fun. I love going and delivering that in school. And I know that Liz has been delivering it recently as well. And Pawsby is for 7 to 11 year olds. This is a 12 lesson programme. .B is a 10 lesson programme, and that's for 11 to 18 year olds. And then .B Foundations is an in-person version of Begin. And mostly it's adult mindfulness teachers who are using .B Foundations because of its kind of links with education. A lot of the examples that are given in the course relate to kind of being in school. And that can be offered in school communities. And shortly we're about to release step 2, which I'm really excited about, of the pathways. And you'll see that .B Foundations are a really sort of key feature or part of step 2 of the pathways. And then SML stands for School Mindfulness Lead. And this is ultimately if schools get to a point where they're interested in making what they offer to students more sustainable by also offering it to adults as well, and having someone in the school who has trained to teach students, who then trains to teach adults. And so they're trained to deliver the .B Foundations programme in educational settings. And just to say about the Pathways model, the idea of the Pathways model is very much around seeing if we can explore how mindfulness can support educational settings in their wellbeing policy that kind of already exists, but also in beginning to look at how to weave it through all elements of school life, if that's what they want to do. But there are certain steps or stages to this development work, and so we've named those the steps 1 through to 5. We've released step 1, which we did earlier this year in May, and as I said, we're going to release step 2 very soon. And really looking at how mindfulness can support schools with wellbeing and the flourishing of both adults and children in those settings. Very importantly, and key to the Pathways model is there are many routes in which this can happen, and it's not that there is one size fits all. So we really encourage educational settings to make this their own. So moving into exploring the materials now a little bit. So you'll see when you open up the materials, and at the end of this session, I'm going to show you where everything lives on the website. And you'll see that the guidance document is both on the landing page, but also for the Welsh mapping, but also is a PDF document that you can print off yourself. When we were developing the original mapping work that we did last year, Catherine Weir gave us advice about talking to the fact that it's never been the intention for the MiSP curricula to kind of map directly across to any other curricula. And so actually what we're doing is looking at and exploring the relationship between mindfulness and the curriculum for Wales, and particularly the area for health and wellbeing. And so our intention then with this work that we've done is to just look at the areas where the curricula link together and enhance each other. And we can see that it goes both ways. So it's the case that health and wellbeing area is enhanced through mindfulness, and also vice versa. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Liz now to talk to this next slide.
Well, all of you will have this written on your hearts. I know it's around every classroom I go in and the children talk about this there. But it is one of the areas that is about the different philosophy that we've got in Wales. And when we were writing the guidance and adapting it from the English, you'll find lots of stuff in the introduction document in that guidance that spells out how things might be for Wales and might be useful reference if you ever have to write a proposal for introducing mindfulness. But on this, this is way back, before COVID, was in a room of people, and some of you might have been there, a room of about 30 people from Wales, and we were trying to work out how we might talk about mindfulness in the context of the curriculum, bearing in mind this is probably 2019, curriculum didn't exist then really. And we came up with a whole load of things that mindfulness could do, and that summed up under 4 areas: cope, connect, flourish, and empower change. I'll just say those again and map those against the 4 purposes there: coping, connecting, flourishing, and empowering change, making better decisions there. And I just think that's such a close connection with what the vision is here for how we want our learners to be, how we all want to be, let's be honest. Yeah, so that already we've got a weaving in there. You know, you couldn't tick off anything and said that bit fits that, but neither can you for any of those. So I think that really demonstrates quite how important mindfulness could be. If you choose mindfulness, how important it could be in moving towards those purposes and certainly matching them, and that being coterminous, not adding anything to the burden, being something that supports rather than detracts, is something really important in what we would have been talking about.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So I'll move us on to this, which I kind of took from the hub, which is all around kind of why, you know, what's involved in this particular area.
Yeah, and if you read through that, I'll test you on it, you know, in terms of it being a description of the curriculum in Hub there, in terms of what the area of learning and experience is supposed to be there. And just if you've skimmed that there, I might invite you just to take out health and well-being area of learning experience, and you could replace that with mindfulness. And again, these are really interesting things that we were discovering as we were putting this together there, that mindfulness provides a holistic structure, especially when you're looking at the pathways. Mindfulness will support learners to understand and appreciate how the different components of health and well-being are interconnected. And mindfulness recognizes helps children and adults recognize that good health and well-being are so important to successful learning. So again, we've got a really good match there, and hopefully we're all on the same tracks.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for explaining that. I totally agree as well. Yeah, so we've kind of pulled out how we feel that mindfulness can support this. And one of the things that I think is really key that maybe makes mindfulness a little bit different from some other areas of sort of social emotional learning is its application. You know, we are practicing mindfulness and it's experiential. And so that helps children actually almost rehearse things before they actually happen. And that's perhaps something we recognise in our own practices as well, is that, you know, we're kind of like exploring and kind of feeling for how things will be before they actually happen. Always makes me think about John Kabat-Zinn's quote about weaving your parachute every day. You know, there's that sense of getting ourselves ready for when things might not be so easy. So mindfulness can support us in our lives. And then also helping them to cultivate a way of being or an approach to the way that they live their lives. So like you were saying, Liz, this is holistic. It isn't kind of just, you know, a toolkit or skills, or it's not just that on its own. It is actually potentially just a way of being in relationship with ourselves, with other things in our lives, and kind of more broadly speaking, you know, in terms of how we relate to bigger issues as well in life. And fundamentally, that practice that we're sort of modelling as adults around children kind of always brings to mind the fact that I don't know how many of you know around about kind of the mirror neuron neuroscience. But there's just this sense that we teach children far more by how we are than anything that we say. So children are just observing us. And so as teachers of mindfulness, but also teachers of well-being, anything to do with well-being, we're constantly modelling how things can be. So really important really to kind of consider that sense of walking our talk when we're in educational settings and around anybody, but especially children. Don't know if there's anything you'd like to add there to that slide, Liz.
Only, you know, that I say this often there, but it's the two sentences or two phrases I put in there that lots of this is caught and not taught, or caught as well as taught, and teaching without caption is not the same, and you know that from your experience. And the other one is that children hear your music more than your words. And I just love those two phrases, and I think they sum up what Faye's been talking about there. The influence we have is just huge, and we underestimate ourselves sometimes in terms of what we do and how we can really take children with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that. I love those phrases. That's a really nice way to put it. So there are things to consider then in terms of this work. And when you're sort of having a look through, so the maps were never intended to be a checklist of content. So it's not kind of tick, 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 we talk, you know, the MiSPs Curricula and it ticks this off. It's more about looking at how they can enrich and complement each other, and also potentially extend the learning in each area. And also, you know, just like mindfulness, you know, teaching can support the area for health and well-being, it goes beyond that, can support lots of the other areas. Liz and I were kind of at the beginning quite ambitious, and we were thinking we might be able to show how it maps onto all of the other areas. And then we realised our limitations within the time that we had. So we stuck with the area for health and well-being. But of course, it will complement other curriculum learning that's going on. But also taking it out more widely into the schools, so kind of weaving it through the school day, looking at how it can kind of complement and enhance the way that we manage transitions, behaviour, all sorts of the things that are the WD-40 of a school, the things that kind of keep the cogs going. And you might recognise that reference of WD-40 from Catherine Weir. That's what she talks about mindfulness being, which is a really interesting sort of thing to consider. But also then potentially in the future, you know, once schools have got going with introducing mindfulness, and also once schools are a little bit further down the track with kind of the curriculum for Wales, then considering how it affects whole school. You know, can it influence, can wellbeing mindfulness influence whole school policy, initiatives, the way that, you know, we kind of do things in school? That would be exciting to consider. And then finally on this page anyway, looking at the fact that embedding mindfulness can be a significant contribution to an educational environment that enables and encourages children to flourish. And I just love that word flourish. It always makes me think of kind of, you know, things blooming and blossoming and flourishing. Is there anything you'd like to say there, Liz?
Oh, just to echo that in terms of flourishing, you know, how much flourishing really is important to me. It's all the things like compassion and trust and relationships, and the things that actually make it possible for children to learn. So there's such a benefit, and this is a no-brainer. It's things we all work towards there, but this is really giving sanction to getting that right. Getting children, in order for children to flourish, they have to be safe and in a compassionate and trustworthy environment, and all of the other things. Gratitude, appreciation.
Yeah, thank you. And you're making me think actually about how key relationships with staff are actually for children and young people to feel safe. And that's again another area where a mindfulness practice can help. So that will come up later. So just looking then at links between the curriculum for Wales and mindfulness. And we talked a bit about, when we were working on this together, about how there were some links that were very direct links, really clear, and I'm going to show you one example of that. And then where it influences, mindfulness can influence and support other areas of school life, as well as the area for health and wellbeing. So this is one of the direct links then, mental health and wellbeing. And there are two what matters statements that really seem to kind of really directly sort of like map across to some of the work that we do in all of our curricula, but I'm going to show you an example from Pools B in a second. And the idea here is that you could be kind of weaving through learning around this in all of those lessons where you might be talking about mental health and well-being, or mental health or well-being. But those statements, how we process and respond to our experiences, affects our mental health and well-being, and our decision-making impacts on the quality of our lives and the lives of others. Just those two on their own, of course we know there are more statements, but those two on their own are just, you know, really linked in terms of the curricula. So those of you that might be Pools B teachers out there, you'll recognise lesson 2, which is all about making choices. And the fact that we're cultivating in this lesson or inviting young people to bring more awareness to the choices that they make, and recognising the choices they make as almost like a superpower, really, because there's that ability then to kind of make other choices that might be more helpful. And some of the examples that we've kind of noted there are, you know, how you could talk about this in the area for health and wellbeing in terms of healthy lifestyles, family relationships, or even sort of safety, their personal safety as well. Anything you'd like to add in there, Liz?
Just again, that whole, coming back to my 4 things: coping, connect, flourishing, and empower, change there. That this is really empowering for children, just having this language and understanding to have conversations with them, even if they've made not such a good choice, about what you could do and how you could consider what was influencing, what was going on for you at the time, that awareness, and what choice could you have made, what might you do next time. These are really, really powerful. So as I'm easing, I've been saying it, and I'm thinking actually that's pretty powerful for adults too. But if we can give, this is for pauses for 7 to 11-year-olds, that ability just sometimes to step back, just to have that pause before they make a choice, before they when they react, maybe they can turn it into a considered response instead, could make such a difference to their lives. And so I think I'm not exaggerating there. I think this is really powerful.
Yeah, thank you. So we also talked about the fact that there were indirect links, that there were lots of examples of things underneath that area for health and wellbeing that you might kind of use mindfulness to kind of talk about, and vice versa. You could bring in some of these examples when you were teaching mindfulness. So they're not directly connected in terms of the curricula, but there are possibilities for talking about all of these things. And one of the things that really struck me actually on that list is about body image. And I was thinking about how within, you know, mindfulness practice, we explore the body, we kind of explore that relationship between the mind and body, perhaps come into more recognition of the signs that the body gives us when all is not well, and how we can then, you know, make choices from off the back of recognizing those signs that might be more helpful and kinder, supportive choices for us. But also potentially in the longer run, maybe it can help with coming into better relationship with ourselves and the way we feel about ourselves, including our bodies, through that exploration in practice. So that's just one example from that list, but I think that it's clear that these kind of subject areas are definitely things that you can weave mindfulness through in terms of talking about this. Liz, anything to say there?
Just to make the point that we're talking about there, that what we're talking about, Pools B, for example, that the example we've just used, is a program with 12 lessons there. But if you stopped at the program, if you don't take it out and use it and weave it in, and what the children have learned from that, that's where the potential is in terms of then applying it to any of these situations there. You've got a whole toolkit, as have the children, to use to talk about some of these things, to approach them in a different way, applying that understanding that they've got from doing the course.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Just to say, by the way, that the notes section on the maps that I'll show you later actually do talk to where you can make those links between these different areas. So we've kind of given some examples where we could, but I'm sure that, you know, huge possibilities there for everybody to kind of grow that in their own way in terms of how they make those connections between those areas. Okay, and then a mindfulness approach. So this is very much about kind of how just the very nature of mindfulness teaching and learning supports this area and the progression steps. Just to say a word about the progression steps, actually, we were very lucky, or I was very lucky rather, to have Liz have connections with the Central South Consortium, who were happy for us to use their strands and progression steps as part of this work. And you'll see that a grid is part of the document for each curricula. It will be there as an annex at the bottom of the grid, so that you can see kind of the learning in context, as well as the fact that we've pulled out some of those steps, progression step statements. And I am aware that, you know, even though we very loosely kind of mapped the progression steps to particular age ranges, that was never the intention for the curriculum for Wales, for it to be you know, a standardized thing, that we weren't looking at certain sort of markers for each age range. Am I right in thinking that, Liz?
It's supposed to be flexible, but I think we've gone in on the main area that for those age groups that you'd be using.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, lovely. And so one of the key kind of things here is the fact that teachers who have developed their own mindfulness practice and have learned to teach the curricula will have a way of teaching that will help with teaching the area for health and wellbeing, because just the embodiment of the teacher means that the attitudinal foundations will be kind of there in their approach, you know, non-judgment, openness, compassion, the ability to kind of like accept whatever comes and also let things go, which is really key. But hopefully all of those kind of qualities contribute to really rich learning and discussions with children and young people underneath that area. Anything you'd like to say about that, Liz?
No, just to reiterate the importance of the teacher there. Although I will just add the story about Thich Nhat Hanh that some of you will have heard of, who is a giant in the mindfulness world. And he was a Vietnamese boat person when all the Vietnamese were escaping in boats. And he said you only needed one person in a boat to be calm, and that boat would be okay. It would spread. And I think this is, you know, we talk a lot about co-regulation. And I think teachers' embodiment of mindfulness really helps with that co-regulation in a classroom. If everything else is a bit chaotic and you're calm, then you have such a better chance of actually working, you know, in getting that co-regulation going, so those kids can work and learn.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Yeah, and we know that is really relevant when it comes to young people who've experienced ACEs, trauma, if there's attachment issues, that kind of safe relationship with an adult who's able to co-regulate are all really key for kind of being able to access all learning. So definitely within this area as well.
Sorry, Faye, before you go on, can I just come back with one other thing? I'm just thinking about the privilege, and some of you who already teach this will know this. You know, we talk about the energy in a room, which is sometimes a little bit chaotic in the classroom there. And it's the biggest privilege in my life to be able to go into a classroom and to lead a practice with children. And this doesn't happen in the first few lessons, this work down the line a bit, but when they've got used to what we're doing, to lead a practice in the classroom and just feel the energy just smooth out and you literally feel it in the body. And that is such a privilege, and it's so appreciated by the children, even if it's only those few moments of calm. And I think that where it says teachers' embodiment of mindfulness, that is, I really, going to town on the importance of that and that gift that we can have by teaching this.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. You're actually reminding me of classes where I've struggled a little bit, and then a few lessons in, they're staying kind of a little bit kind of quieter and more with it as we're in the practice. And I can feel myself going, just wait, wait, rather than moving on too quickly, allowing them to just be in that kind of space where it feels that energy is so special, isn't it? When you kind of know that that's what's happening in the room.
But that is an important point there, that this is not a quick wing.
Yeah.
And the whole of this is about, actually, this is something that is worth developing and doing properly and taking time over. It is a journey of those pathways. It isn't putting an app on and hoping that does the trick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because I always think about mindfulness being about being a human being. So actually, as the teacher, you're exploring that with them, aren't you? So it can't be something that you just click and play, because there's no interaction there at all, is there? So, and the final thing on this page is just that mindfulness can underpin the attributes and principles of each of the 4 purposes, which I think you may have already kind of explained, but is there anything you'd add to that?
No, I think we explained that on that slide earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so how can kind of the themes, I've kind of put themes and skills, but really what we're doing is talking here about some of the traits that you might sort of like cultivate as part of a mindfulness practice, how they might support the application of health and wellbeing themes. And I think if you explore that list, I mean, you sort of can recognize all of those things as part of a mindfulness practice. But what an incredible thing to kind of work with children with. It's really just what an incredible thing that is a lifelong learning, to begin this journey when you're children, when you're a child, and begin to kind of learn all of these things. I certainly wish I'd learned it when I was younger. Anything to say there, Liz? Or?
No, I just think you just need to skim that list there and see how relevant it is to life, to being a human being. I love that analogy. This is about we really bringing out that humanity in all of us. And if ever there was a time that we needed to bring out all of the humanity that we know is within us, it's what the world that we're creating for these kids now.
Yeah. Hopefully things will begin to change. I'm always aware of that analogy of kind of seed sowing and mindfulness happening on horticultural time. So there's been lots of seeds that have been sown in recent years around this. So hopefully as time moves on, things will begin to flourish and grow. So just to say a little bit about the fact that though there might be areas that look like there are similarities, so for example, physical health is one of the areas that comes underneath the area for health and wellbeing. When they're talking about it in the progression steps, you can see that they're talking about body and movement in terms of physical activity and exercise. And of course, there's nuances there because it's different when we're talking about mindfulness. It's more about that shifting from thinking into sensing, from doing into being, that ability to tune into sensations in the body and notice, signs of unrest or discomfort, and notice when we need help, when we need support, and being able to make wise, kind choices to help ourselves in those moments. I'm just using that as an example, but there are some others as well. Anything there, Liz?
Just that we're not ever seeking to say that mindfulness will do it all.
No.
Looking at this as part of a rich diet, I think you can make such a curriculum to the contribution to the curriculum, but it's part of a much wider set of activities. You've got lots of lovely things going on already, and this is not to underestimate the power of physical activity and the importance of that. I think we would all sign up to that there, but and in terms of mindful movement, there are all sorts of things we can do that are linked there. But we're not claiming that mindfulness is going to do everything. Mindfulness makes a contribution.
Yeah, thank you. I just always think about that analogy that we use about the fact that you can't go to the gym once and get a six-pack. So our focus here is not on the six-pack as such, is it? It's just it's more on, yeah, just kind of knowing how we are, and it also noticing our motivation to do things as well, like exercise, which is interesting in itself. Yeah. Thank you. So mindful approaches can support, of course, learning behaviours for children and young people in school. So this has a much broader impact beyond the area for health and wellbeing. And so I've just kind of pulled out some of the areas that we know that it helps with. So concentration, ability to direct attention, focus, communication skills, and self-regulation. And we've got it there again at the bottom there, Liz, about the fact that all of those behaviours directly relate to the four purposes. Yeah. So whole school approaches, and I'm going to come to you in a second, Liz, because I know you know an awful lot more about this document than I do. But just to say that we talk about sowing seeds, and I think about the fact that the ground in which the seeds are sown is really important. So there's something about considering, is this going to be a whole school approach to wellbeing? In which case, all of the seeds that are sown are much more likely to kind of blossom and grow. My thinking around kind of the curriculum for Wales is that because it's now an integral part of the curriculum, this area for health and wellbeing, that there stands more chance of schools having whole school approaches in Wales for this reason. So I would hope anyway that in Wales that is the case. What would you say, Liz?
Definitely. And I think I included this just to say that we have taken into account the wider context in which the curriculum is developed, because this is statutory guidance. Some of you may know it very well. A statutory guidance that was issued in 2021. So it's a while ago now, but it will underpin what the Healthy Schools coordinators do, and lots of you will be working very closely with those. And it is about smoothing out and getting support for individuals that they need there. And it's also about lots and lots in it about whole school approaches and attitudes. And it's full of values and principles that we can all sign up to. So whether or not you know it in detail or not, it will underpin the assessment issues that you'll be doing with the Healthy Schools coordinator and some of the guidance that they've got there as well. It is statutory guidance, so you're supposed to have regard to it. But I think it is about the context. It's sanction, if you like, sanction to the ways that I think probably everyone who's turned up tonight would want to work. And I think sometimes in Wales we underestimate how important is that is. And I know a couple of you here from England there, and Faye's alluded to it there. People are saying to me, I would love that sanction. I can do it under the radar. This is all important. But there is something really important for us in Wales that we have got Welsh Government guidance sanction on so many of the things that we would want to do, into which mindfulness can fit if you choose that. There'd be lots of other ways, but if you choose to do mindfulness, it really does fit into all of these things that are the context in which the curriculum happens.
Yeah, thank you. And from kind of my understanding, there's a link as well to kind of how you work with outside agencies as well, in connection kind of with educational communities, which feels really important. And it's kind of not always been the sense that there's been joined up thinking in that respect. So really kind of nice to see that that's in there as well.
And lots of you will recognise that it's harder to achieve, but it's lots of progress has been made on that. And just to say on the Mindfulness Wales front, because I'm chairing Mindfulness Wales as well, that we actually looking at how we can encourage mindful communities as well, how we can actually look at the wider context, not just the education community, and how we can get support on a wider context. So let's see where we go on that one.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. So just to say, the second bullet point just relates to the fact that there's really great guidance in there for kind of making that a reality, sort of a whole school initiative.
And of course, the pathways will fit really nicely into that. The pathways model would actually take you through to something that would be very coterminous to the whole school approaches that are set out here.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. And kind of along that note, actually, is just the fact that the MiSPs Curricula can be a foundation for, but also sit alongside other SEL learning that's happening in school. And of course, all of those things are going to be part of that whole school approach. And I know myself from work that I've done in schools that kind of things like forest school, sort of positive psychology, resilience, all of those things, sort of like mindfulness really complements and works well with all of those different programs that you might use. I have a really strong kind of passion for nature connection, and can really see kind of like how it helps with forest school, you know, taking mindfulness kind of outside into nature with children. And of course, for me, I think nature connection is part of potentially the answer to some of the issues that we might have at the moment on the planet. Okay, so I'm just going to finish with this quote from the Mindfulness Initiative document, or this section anyway, from the Mindfulness Initiative document, Implementing Mindfulness in Schools. And I'm going to read it, bear with me. I know it's not always great to have a slide read out, but I just really like to kind of hear it. So through its present moment embodied skills-based approach, mindfulness can help ensure that the aims of SEL are realised in practice and action, not just expressed as theories, words, and future intention. And for me, that's the USP of mindfulness, is that this is about applying it in our lives, it's lived experience. And that's the beauty of what mindfulness can bring. Is there anything you'd say to that, Liz?
Only just to agree with it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to take us now into looking at where the resources are on the website. Before we go into that, I just want to mention the fact that the resources currently are in English, but we are in process with Welsh translations of these documents as well. So just to say that they will be on their way. So watch this space in that respect. So you might recognise this homepage, and underneath the training and support header is where you will find Mapping Our Curricula, and you'll see the Welsh Curricula page there. This is what the Welsh Curricula page looks like. Underneath, where you can see there's kind of the tips of the documents, there is the introduction, the guidance that we've just been talking about. And you'll see there's an awful lot more information than what we've been discussing as part of that guidance as well. And also at the bottom of that page, you'll be able to see where the documents are too, that you can kind of print off. And so I'm just going to take you into the Pools B mapping document and just show you kind of one of the front pages. And just to say that there's just an explanation at the beginning about what's included. And one of the things that we've included is the core mechanisms that are from that Mindfulness Initiative document that I showed you a moment ago. Core mechanisms for mindfulness, as well as a notes section, and also the what matters statements with strands, descriptions of learning and progression steps. And again, a massive thank you there to the Central South Consortium Joint Education Service for letting us use those. And you'll see that at the bottom of this page, it relates to the fact that there are some descriptions of learning. So some of the what matters statements, strands, and the progression steps that relate across the whole of the Pools B curricula. So they are there and they're woven through the whole curricula rather than being sort of direct links. And this is what the pages look like. So we've got those core mechanisms on the left there, and then a description of the content of the lessons with the notes and opportunities. So that's what I was saying before about the fact that, you know, where there might, some of the things that you might explore, where the links might be, and then the health and wellbeing, what matters statements, strands and descriptions of learning in the right hand column. And this is the annex of those progression strands and progression steps that the Central South Consortium allowed us to borrow / nick, which is kind. Okay, so that's the end of that. Deal. I shall stop the share there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move into breakout rooms. So it's just to have a chance to talk with each other really about kind of where these links are between the mindfulness curricula and the area for health and well-being. Maybe if you're an external teacher and you go into settings, might be sort of discussions there around how you might use these documents to help you with talking to senior leaders in schools about how the MiSP curricula or mindfulness works with the curriculum for Wales. Welcome back. See you all just joining us there. I'm just checking that everybody is back from the breakout room as well. Yep, I think we're all here. Okay, so I hope that was interesting to kind of go into a room and just have a chance to have a chat with each other. Just wanted to mention a few things actually before we get into sort of any questions that anyone might have. Just to mention that all of the lesson PowerPoints are translated into Welsh in terms of our curriculum and our materials, and also we can offer .begin in Welsh, and if appropriate, yeah, and feels right for you in terms of the classes that you're working with. We also do class impact surveys as well in Welsh. So just wanted to mention all of those kind of resources that are available there. And just an invitation now, if you want to just put a question, yeah, into chat, if there's anything that you'd like to ask. I'm just giving you opportunity for that now. Yeah, Eleanor, so I'll start talking to that one. So the schools sit together, they're now at a new time, so they're at 1:15 when we run them. The next one is the 6th of December. And we've deliberately moved it to that time so that people can join, because previously I think people were finding it clash with lunch. And so there's opportunity there to either come with a big group, so in a school hall, or you could send out the link to individual class teachers and they can join with their children. It's open to everyone, whether people have got a mindfulness practice or not. So really sort of just to say welcome, you know, please do come along and bring your students with you. We'd love to see you there. So thank you for asking that question. And please do say sort of in the chat if there's anything else I can help you with there. And Sian, yeah, so just to say that we've got these resources are currently in process of being translated, but we also have all of our lesson PowerPoints translated into Welsh. And we can offer .begin in Welsh, so we've had bespoke courses that have been run with a Welsh teacher. And also the class impact surveys, so those surveys that you do at the end of delivering a course, you can request those to be in Welsh for your children. Okay. And yes, Linda, I've put together a PDF of those slides, so they'll be going out to you. Yeah, so you've got all of that there. Lovely. Just check that I've not missed anything else. Oh yeah, thank you, Lynn. Yeah, it's you know, really, we're really happy that we've got all of this available in Welsh. Are there grants available through MiSP for in Wales to support the teacher training or cover for teachers in training, please? Yes, we do have grants. Our CHK funding does offer, I'm trying to remember all the details of this now. I might need a little bit of backup from my team about kind of what the details are. Emma, are you happy to just share?
Yes, I've just unmuted. I don't think you'll be able to see me, but hi, I'm Emma Goddard. I'm a Membership Support Manager at MiSP. Yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can get funding for teachers in Wales. We have our main supported place programme, which offers funding to schools with high levels of pupils on free school meals, with English as an additional language, and with identified send support. And also we are just in the process of adding support for schools that are in rural areas. That's coming very, very soon. And then we also have a programme that's been kindly supported by CHK Foundation, which is for Key Stage 1 and 2 and early years, so would cover DOTS and PAWS B, where you can get 80% of the course fees paid for by that programme, again offered to schools with high levels of preschool meals, English as an additional language, identified send, and rural schools will be covered in that soon as well. So have a look on our website. Ben's kindly put the links in there. So yes, lots of support available.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. And thank you, Ben, for popping the links in as well at the side there. And I hope that those of you where that would be helpful, you've had a chance to kind of collect those links too from the chat. Anything else then at all? Any questions, any further questions? Okay, so I wonder whether it would be helpful, Liz, to just say that we have plans for an event with Mindfulness Wales. Do you want to we haven't got a date as such, but the plan is for the new year, haven't we?
Yes, we thought we'll have the video of this event there, which we will be able to share widely, and hopefully you can share that with colleagues who weren't able to make it tonight there. But we've talked about using the Mindfulness Wales vehicle, and Mindfulness Wales, I lead on education and I'm chair, so that gives me a little bit of an edge there. But really lots of support for education. We've got an education group, which I know a couple of you have been to, where we come together and share. But we thought we could have an online event, a Zoom event like this that we do under the banner of Mindfulness Wales, to perhaps take this a little bit further, that we could look at maybe some actual practice, some case studies, maybe even get some children leading practices and some things like that, just to take our discussion a little bit further about how it might work and what it might look like. So that's what we're planning. Look out for that. Because you're on the MiSP list, you'll all get the information about that. And if any, just to say, I'll put this in the information that Emma's going to send up there. But if anyone wants to be added onto the mailing list for the Mindfulness Wales education group, there I'll give you a link for that, so that you can be kept in touch, and so you'll be informed one way or another of what we do to take this forward. But welcome your ideas, and if you think that'd be a good idea, if you think it would be useful to have something which again would be recorded. We know that not everyone can make a 7 o'clock slot. If you've got young children, it's pretty hard to do that. So if we have another a sort of phase 2 recording that you can all use to share with colleagues, and we can make widely available to take this a little bit further. I really appreciate if anyone can say whether they think that's a good idea or not.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, so hopefully the information from this session, also potentially, what's coming in the future as well, means that there'll be a real sense of kind of like growing this almost like its own pathway, actually, in terms of the curriculum for Wales and the curricula. So thank you. Thanks, Liz. And thank you to everybody who's come here this evening on this dark November night. We really appreciate you coming along and supporting the work that we do. So thank you, all of you, and hope to see you again soon. So diolch.